Hi everyone, this is Nellie. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to make a wired rose. There are a couple of different techniques to make beaded flowers. There's a European wiring method and there's also a French wiring method. The French wiring method is a little bit different to how we're going to work today, and it's different in the way that you tie your wire together once you've put your beads on. So today we're going to do the European method, and these are going to be a European wired rose. So I'll start off by going through the items, all of the items that we're going to need to make our rose. The first thing that we have is seed beads. Now I'm using size 8 seed beads. You can use size 11, they make a much finer looking flower. These ones are silver lined. I quite like how the finish of the silver lining looks, but the pearl finish looks really good as well. And also two-tone seed beads look pretty good too. Now, you don't need to have uniform beads. Quite often, and I'm sure that we've all done this, is we've bought a whole bunch of nice cheap beads and then gone to do a bead weaving project and we've not been able to do it because the beads are not uniform in size or shape. This is the perfect project for you to use up all of those beads because it doesn't really matter. They can be any size or shape. Now, we've also got a central stem. This is from a floristry supply place. If you can't get hold of these, that's okay. I'm also going to show you how to make your own stem with some stamens in there for the inside of your flower. The other thing I have is a piece of floristry wire so that I can extend this particular one and make it longer as I've done here, and that gives you a nice long flower. The other thing I have is 26 gauge wire. You could use 24 or 26. I quite like using the 26. It tends to work really well as you're doing the beading, and some floristry tape. So we'll kick off. I'll just move these things out of the way so that they're not distracting for you. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start making petals. So we want to make a group of petals and we want to make a group of leaves that we can use on our flower. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put on 3 seed beads. So we pop on 3 seed beads onto our wire. Then I bring the ends of my wire together. I've cut this into, it's about just less than 50 centimetres. I find that that's perfectly long enough using this size 8 seed beads. If you're using size 11s, you probably don't need that much wire. So I'm going to pull those 3 beads down to the centre of the folded wire. And then with one end of the wire, I'm going to go through 2 of my seed beads. And then I'm going to pull each end nice and tight. And what happens is we end up with a little triangle of beads. So I've got 1 at the bottom and then I've got 2 just above that. We're going to work our way up, adding an extra 2 beads per row until we get a nice petal shape. So my next row is going to be 4 beads. So I'm going to pop on 4 beads, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then with the other end of the wire, I'm going to pass that through all 4 of those beads. Then I'm going to pull the wire. Now what you'll see is it's going to want to go not quite in the right place. So I need to just flip my little triangle of beads around so that now when I pull that tight, it's going to sit on top of those previous 2 beads. So pull each end nice and tight. And now we have our 3rd row with 4 seed beads on it. So our next row, because we're adding 2 at a time, is going to be 6. So we're going to add on 6 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. With the other end of our wire, we're going to pass through all 6 of those beads. And then again, we're going to pull each end nice and tight. And you can see, again, I need to flip that so that it sits in the right place for me. Now what will happen when you pull it tight is you'll see that it tends to curl up a little bit. That's okay because a petal doesn't sit completely flat, and we're going to end up with a nice curl in our petal. Now continue on. What we're going to do is we're going to make some internal petals which are a little bit shorter than our outside petals. So for our inside petals, I'm going to keep going until my last row has 10 beads on it. So here is one I prepared earlier. So this one has got 10 beads at the end, and what I need to do now is bring down a side on each side with some more beads on it. So this is a bit, there's no exact science to this. These size 8 seed beads mean that I need to put on about 8 beads to go down the side. So if I put on 4, 6, 7 and 8. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this end of the wire back through that lonely bottom bead there. I actually only need 6. So I'll take those 2 off, pass that back through. And so now I have my 6 beads. So you can see that's made the side of a petal. So on this side I'll put 6 as well. 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And I'm going to pass that back through from the other side, that single bead. So they've both crossed over in that single bead, and you just need to pull it nice and tight, and then you're going to twist. You just twist those together, and as you can see it's slightly curved, which is okay, that suits us. And there's one smaller internal petal. Now altogether I need 3 of the smaller ones, so that's where we go up to having 10 on our final row. And then I've made some larger ones as well. So these ones I've got a couple of extra rows, and we actually go up to 14 on that row. What will happen is this is where I think I needed an extra couple of beads on the side. Again, you can see that it's cupped a little bit. So altogether we need 3 small ones, and we're going to use 5 larger ones. So now what we're going to do is assemble our rows all together. We're going to use our stem here with the ball, and I'm going to add that longer piece of wire to it as well. Now the way to get these 2 together is to use our florist's tape. I don't know if anybody's used florist tape before, but it's really stretchy and it sticks to itself. So if you start stretching the tape, rolling it and stretching it, it will stick to itself and create a nice fine film around your stem. So I'm stretching it as I go, so you can see that it's getting stretched. I go all the way down to where they both join up, and then pull it off. So you can see that I've created a longer stem. So I'm going to use that one, but I'm going to quickly show you how I made this one. So this one has a couple of extra stamens at the top. So all I did to create that was with my 26 gauge wire, I popped on 3 beads and then another 3 beads, so 6 altogether, came back around and went back through those first 3 beads And so that put a little loop onto the top. And then I popped on another 6, went around and went through the last 3. So I'm just going to do that again. With these are size 11 beads. 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be my little stem part of the stamen, and then another 3, which is going to be the loop at the top. 2, 3. I'll let them all go down together with these beads, and then I'm going to go through those last 3 beads again. And as I pull that nice and tight, you'll see that those top 3 form a little loop. And now I've got 3 all together. And if I just pull those in tight and give that a twist, I've ended up with some stamens to go into the centre of my rose. Now I can add that to another piece of floristry wire. Just wrap around like that. You probably don't need to put the tape on this time around. But then if you tape it, it's going to look like that. So there you go. That's how you make your own. So I'm going to use this one. I'm going to put the smaller petals on first. Now this is pretty easy. This is all just about assembling your flower. So I'm going to put that little ball in the center there, and I'm just going to twist this wire around the stem. And there we have 1 petal on. We go to our next petal, same thing, wire it around. So I've just offset it a little bit. When you've got all of your petals on, you can move them around and actually get them to sit exactly where you need them to sit. So you can see if you cut up, if your wire is too long, you've got lots and lots of wire to work with. So there we have 2, and I'm going to put my last inside petal on there. I tend to always twist the wire in the same direction, because you'll find when you're putting your floristry tape on at the end, if you're following the same direction, you won't come up against the sharp ends because they can be a little bit stabby. So there's 3 petals onto my rose. Now I'm going to put the larger outside ones on. And we're just going to twist, twist, twist. It's all about the twist. 1, put on another one. Now what we did when I first learnt how to make these roses, I was in a craft group, and one of the ladies in the craft group was getting married. And she was making all of her own items for the wedding. And so what we decided to do as a group of friends was we wanted to make her bridal bouquet. So we all sat down, I think there were about 5 of us, and we all made 3 or 4 roses each. Somebody made a lot of leaves as well. And a whole lot of beaded baby's breath too, and we assembled a beautiful bouquet of flowers for her. And it was in a very pale peachy silver-lined bead, and it just looked beautiful. It was very heavy, but it looked very, very beautiful as well. So that was a really special thing that we could do. Now the other thing that I do with these, and I'll show you once I've finished, is because that was quite heavy, I kind of learnt from that and have made lots of beaded bouquets. And what I like to do with the beaded bouquets is actually use other kinds of silk flowers, and I also make roses out of gaff tape. And they, when you put them all together, they They make a beautiful bouquet as well. I'll show you one of those when I'm finished. So you just put them all together, and because they're wire, you can give them a bit of a squeeze, a little bit of a move around, just so that you've got them all sitting in a really nice place. And there we have our rose nicely assembled. Now the other thing that you can do is using that same wire technique, but putting your beads on in a slightly different order. So we make it pointy at the end, you get wider, and then decrease the number of beads in your row as well. You can make a little set of leaves that go around the base of the rose. So roses have little leaves that sit up against the petal head and keep it all together. And also then you can make all sorts of different sets of leaves to go on your rose as well. I'm not going to do that for you today because it's probably going to take too long to show you. So once you've actually got that on there and you're happy, that's where we're going to grab our floristry tape, and we're going to start. What I generally do is work a little bit further up towards the head, just to hold it all together. I'm going to come back and shape it again in a minute. And then I'm going to go back down. So this is a bit of a technique because I'm stretching with my thumb as I'm pulling the tape around the flower. Keep going all the way down to the end. And the tape needs to be able to stick to itself, so you'll probably find that as you go. There we go, and then I'm going to pull it off. So that actually covers up all of your spiky little ends. So I'm just going to go back in, reshape it to where I want it to be, squeeze it closed. And you'll see that that's where some of your outside leaves would probably help a lot as well to keep that together. Once you start putting it into a bunch, that will help them close up as well. You could use a slightly thicker gauge of wire, and that would certainly hold the shape even more. I find that it makes it harder to make these turnarounds when you're weaving it. So I'd rather just use it in a bunch of flowers to hold it all together. But there's your rose. That's very beautiful. Here is one made in the pearl colours. This is one that I started as well. And it is with size 11s. So you can see that it makes a daintier style of rose. And I will show you just quickly where I have used those items in a bouquet. So because it's wire, it will sit where you put it. So thank you everybody. Thank you for spending this time watching me go through and showing you how to put together a European wired flower. Thank you.